It is 7:02, and I will call this meeting to order for the Pewaukee School District Board meeting for Monday, December 15th. I will start by taking roll call. Stacey?
Here.
Travis?
Here.
Larry?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
Ashley?
Here.
And myself. Was the meeting properly noticed?
The meeting was properly noticed.
Awesome. And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, we're going to start with our student representative report.
All right. I can't believe it's already December, but here's the start of our December board report. So the first topic we wanted to touch on today is the senior signing day. So we had Giselle Janowski for UW-Madison for basketball, Vanessa Johnson for Florida Southern basketball, Aubrey Spitzner for Grinnell College, Alex Burkemper for Ashland University, Addie Burkemper for Ashland University, Lila Quinones for Goshen College, Eliana Bennett for Marian University, Elena Chinesky for Campbellsville University, Maddie Chabot for Washington University, Samaji Petzold for Winona State, and Tucker Thieneman for North Dakota State football. So that's just really exciting for all of those senior athletes who get to continue their academic and athletic career in college, and just a great opportunity to see them pass on their dreams while also getting to play a sport that they love. So then we have holiday activities. So there were quite a few of these. It seems like a lot of people are just very in the mood for Christmas, but this also touches a little bit on some Thanksgiving aspects. So Mrs. Buddy's psychology class went to the second grade classroom of Mrs. Zarek, and they made turkey feather thank you cards for the Pewaukee Fire Department, just because oftentimes they do have to work on holidays. So just a little reminder that we are so thankful for their work, for the work that they do. And then student council had a scavenger hunt for turkey feathers, and the three winners won $10 gift cards. So they've been doing that the last two holidays, and that was pretty interesting. People get pretty competitive about that. And then the 4K turkey trot, which is really cute. The 4Kers walk laps around the school, and they dance with their families. And then they all watched a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving afterwards. And then there was the PLE balloon parade, where students decorated their own balloons and then paraded around the school, kind of like the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day parade. And then the PHS FCCLA has a fundraiser that's going on from December 17th to 19th, and they're selling festive holiday and graduation ornaments just to kind of raise funds for their club. And then there's cookie decorating for PLE Horizon that a lot of volunteers for Key Club or NHS took part in.
So the senior class president and I worked on some holiday dress-up days. We have some more that Esri and some other people in student council worked on too for the few days we have next week. But me and Allie Haight, we organized some days this week. So today was PJ Day, tomorrow's Red versus Green, Wednesday is Whiteout, and then Thursday is Hat Day, and then Friday is Flannels versus Puffers. So we'll be doing that all week.
So then for our learning spotlight, we have Mr. Yuskis's Experiencing Wisconsin group. They took a field trip to Madison, and they got a tour of the Capitol building, which we did in 4th grade, but I think it's really cool to see it more grown up in high school, because I think you can appreciate the architecture a little bit more as you get older. And then they also got a tour of the Monona Terrace. And then Mrs. Thoma's WF100 class is working on an immersion journalism project, which is actually a great way for students to kind of dive into the career that they're looking for, because essentially the project is you go to somebody's workplace or an activity that you're interested in, and then you kind of observe the experience, you immerse yourself in the experience, and then you write a paper on it and you give a presentation to the class. So it's just a great way for students to kind of get involved in that way. And then Mr. Douglas's Model UN classes had the Arrowhead Model UN conference on December 6th. So that was a really fun one. And then Mrs. Evans' chemistry classes, students picked their own element to explore, and then they did this big project where they kind of focused on the properties of the element and kind of diving more into a specific element just to help them kind of understand the periodic table a little bit better.
So for some athletic and activities going on right now, the drama crew just finished up Peter and the Starcatcher, which was their fall play, and then the cast for Matilda just got released this weekend actually, and I believe that they just started rehearsals today. The Hope Squad is going to have a hot chocolate social this week, and then girls basketball won their first game of the season. Wrestling, I forgot to put the score in. That was before the duel happened, but we beat Pius by a lot. And then cheer competed at the Phoenix Invite, placing second in their division, and then they also competed at Waukesha South this past weekend. NHS had their induction ceremony. The Environmental Club set up some trail cams. Best Buddies made feathers for teachers to express their gratitude. The Academic Decathlon is doing regionals in January, stayed in March, so granting them good luck. And then ping pong had their second tournament of the season, hosted at ASA. So for some salutes and recognitions, Student Council connected with PLE students and made Thanksgiving Day crafts with them. The construction crew for working so hard to complete our new learning spaces, and some of it opened up today. We helped Miss Simona move some things into her room today. Those who have donated to the Giving Tree, and Asa Clark's 7th grade Red House for partnering with the Christmas Clearing Council of Waukesha County for collecting toys.
And thank you for listening to our presentation.
I can add that it was 67-5.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
The
my
rest in TV
goodness.
files.
Crazy.
Like, I think I got the score in here somewhere.
Tammy, can you go back a slide? Oh, do you have it?
Yeah.
Anna, can you go back a slide?
To this one?
Yep. What is Trail Cam Thursdays? Do you know what that means?
Yes, yeah. So what Environmental Club has started is like they set up a trail cam in the backwoods, and they capture like pictures of wildlife and different like plants and like just flora and fauna from the area, and then they post it every Thursday with cute pictures on the social media, which is just really cute. So there's a lot of pictures of like deer on there or like different animals.
Is it their social media or the Pewaukee?
Their social media.
Theirs? Okay,
Yeah, I
great.
think
That's
it's
really
called
cool.
PHS Environmental Club. Probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds right.
Yeah.
Alexis wants 500 followers.
Yes.
I can do that. I can help that out.
Yeah. I think we're at like 160 right now. So.
All right, peeps, come on.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Great report.
Wonderful
job.
report. Thank you so much. Tammy, are there any comments from citizens?
There are no comments from citizens.
All right. Then next, we move on to salutes and recognitions. And Monday, December 1st, we had a Pewaukee Business Alliance meeting here. And I want to give a shout out to Nelson Burnell, Ben Lamp, and Adriana Plack, who ran that meeting. We had students here, we had business leadership here, and I'm telling you, it's so exciting, especially after we just toured the new facility, because we have industry leaders right in our back door that are so excited about our students to want to get into the trades. They'll gobble them up. I mean, sky's the limit for any of these students that want to get involved. So I just want to give a shout out to those three individuals, especially for putting that together, and we're having another one in the spring.
Yeah.
Larry attended that with me
Yeah,
as
I
well.
would totally echo everything that she just said. And it was people from business and industry, but it was also people that represented, like the carpenters groups and construction groups that were out there that have access to other things. So I mean, it's like, again, they're very interested in what we're doing. And I think we'll offer our students some really great opportunities to do some internships, whatever you want to, apprenticeship kinds of things that are out there. So very excited about that. So, and again, Nelson and Adriana and Ben were pretty instrumental in pulling that group together, and obviously will be an ongoing kind of business advisory group for us as well. So.
Anyone else on the board? How about administration?
Based on our meeting today at Business Affairs, one of the areas where I'd like to provide salute is for Megan and Tara specifically, or Megan and David and Tara in the business office with the work they've done on the procurement review for the USDA. It was a new process that had to be built out and responded to in a short time frame, and they did a great job in getting everything together.
Anthony? I'd like to do a recognition here. As you're probably aware, we have a lot of good, really important people in our special ed paraprofessional staff that assist our teachers. But I want to call out one in particular who has been kind of our shining star for a long time, and that's Julie Chapman. Julie's a para at both PLE and now Horizon as well, and I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't want to get into any privacy things with any students, but she really stepped up with the situation and at Horizon and has just made a world of difference getting in there with her work with students. So I've met with, as you know, I do what we call O3 meetings with all my administrative reports, and I met with Tony Stranke today, and he's done it the last couple of times, really saying that's somebody that needs to be recognized. So I'm glad I remembered to do it here tonight because Julie is fantastic. So.
All right. If that's it, moving along, consent agenda. We're accepting the minutes from the meetings on November 24th. Correspondence, but also a very generous gift. $48,626 was received from the PTO towards Pewaukee Lake Horizon Elementary and Asa Clerk Middle School. So thank you to the PTO for those amazing funds. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Business affairs, Stacey.
Okay, move this back. So we had the report from the independent auditors. So Paul, the partner on our audit, came in and gave us the good news that we had a clean opinion, which is an unqualified opinion. So everything has been running very well. They're very pleased with everything. I specifically asked about preparation because we historically have been known to be a very well-prepared audit. When the auditors come in, everything's been done. And we do have a bit of a new staff, but Paul said that everything has just been seamless and fabulous. So the team is just continuing to uphold that high standard that we've had for years. So we're very grateful about that. We went through and talked about some of the finances, and it's that time of year. John, we did have to do a draw on that line of credit in November. He is working tirelessly to try and prevent that from having to happen again this month. So we're very hopeful that we don't have to make another draw on it, as the funds will start to come in January from the tax levies. The only other thing is he did say, and I just want to throw this out to the whole board, at our March meeting, if there's anything that the board has questions on with the budget process, the numbers, anything like that, that is the time where he could spend some time diving deeper into a department or, some category or something if anybody has any questions. So, and of course, we want to give him that request as early as possible so he can prepare. And then I'm going to throw it to him.
The last piece of information we went through at the committee level was looking at the monthly capital projects update and where we stand on the projects. On our investments, we reviewed where the funds available are. I'd also like to report the other elements of the referendum that were passed through there. We were real close on issuing a contract for the solar, and the cost of that solar project is coming in lower than what we had projected in the referendum. We also will be bidding out in the next month the flooring project at Horizon. We anticipate that will be relatively close to the budgeted amount. The 3 additional projects that were added earlier this fall for timing with the track, the turf, and the work at Horizon. The track and the turf are both bid out and will be awarded in the next couple of weeks to the contractors within the budget of what we had anticipated. Along with the work at Horizon in the next month will be bid out to the market and then awarded to contractors. So everything is coming together to be done in a timely manner for this summer. And a reminder, at the January meeting, we'll be discussing where we stand financially with all the projects, especially as we see this project here, the major element of the phase 1 of construction, phase 1 and 2, coming to fruition. We're at about 91% completed on the construction as of the end of November. As we see that completed, looking at what other scope will be presented tonight potentially in the long-range capital projects plan for items that we anticipate needing to be addressed in the near future.
Are we doing the same kind of like tile in Horizon, or are we looking at other?
The plan right now is to use carpeting And then also, like you see some of the elements in the floor here that are reflective of the ceiling in that, we'll have elements within the flooring and the patterning on there that reflect horizon and the elementary nature of that building.
We do actually have a flooring design plan. Now we could get that to you, so you guys can see what that's gonna look like. So a little different for the cafeteria, but then for the hallways and the library and those pieces. So maybe Tammy, could you make a note for me to get that flooring? Miranda has it pieced to the board so they can see it.
All right. Any questions for John? Okay, otherwise.
Motion to accept the business affairs report as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next, we go on to new business, which is our school and district report card analysis and review. And we've got Candace joining us, as well as Anthony, so.
Yeah, so I will hand it over to Candace. I know you guys all got information in your packets as well. Candace will go through the presentation, and then I did get some questions that I can answer for the full board, but then, as usual, if you guys have questions, please ask.
So we're going to get started on the Wisconsin State Report Cards. Oops, my little key, there we go. So with the report cards, the school district was under the significantly exceeds expectations category along with Asa Clark Middle School. Horizon School and Pewaukee High School were both under exceeds expectations. And if you look closely at Horizon, they were 0.1 points away from being under the significantly exceeds expectations. So really, really close. And then Pewaukee Lake Elementary School is satisfactory progress. So what happens is, because Pewaukee Lake Elementary School does not receive assessment data, they receive an alternative rating. So that's any school that doesn't have grades 3 through 8 or 9 through 11 with the ACT suite. Goals are set up and monitored by the schools and districts, and then we have to self-report those to DPI. And so those goals are typically, Brian Siegel has those associated with the compete goals that we monitor for the graduate profile. And so they receive that alternative rating. The other schools receive ratings across 4 categories: student achievement, growth, target group outcomes, and on track to graduation. And as you can see, most of these data points are really those data points we've talked about at the last 2 assessment presentations we've done, in which it is the Wisconsin Forward Assessment looking at achievement, growth, the achievement and growth of the lower quartile of students, and then some attendance and absentee information, or the ACT suite and graduation information at the high school. So just across those 4 categories, the schools receive scores that are combined to create their overall score. We did have some questions about how growth is calculated compared to the other components of the report card. And so we added this slide, which is a little different from your packet, to address those questions that Ashley had. So growth is a value-added statistical model. And what they do is they take students' prior achievement score, so wherever they're kind of ranged, and they look at all of the demographics associated with those students. And so if I have a score of 100, they're going to take my score and look at all the students that look exactly like me across the state of Wisconsin and see what all of our average growth is. Then they're going to take my individual score and compare it to that average growth and say, are you above average growth or below average growth for all of your peers that look just like you? Based on that, students are assigned a score, and then the school receives a score based on all of their combined students. And so we're really looking at, when we look at growth, how above average or below average your students are, controlling for all of their little factors that might be helping or decreasing their score as well. So are there any questions about growth? So for the overall score on the report cards, we were in the top 7% across the state for K-12 school districts. That is a slight decrease from last year, the 23-24 school year for the report cards, in which we were in the top 4%. Still very, very good, though, remaining in that top 10% of some very competitive school districts, as we see, and high-performing school districts as well. Some areas of success are grades 6 through 8 math achievement was very high this year. That's kind of carrying over into some things we're seeing this year, so that's very exciting. The grades 9 through 11 math growth for struggling learners was very high. So for students that were identified as struggling in the 2024 school year, they had higher than average growth coming into the 2025 school year. So great news for the high school on that. And then, of course, our student graduation rates are extremely high, and that shows up repeatedly in the report cards. Some possible areas of focus are target group outcomes and their achievement. And so looking at the bottom 25% of students and trying to see if we can move their achievement up and make them more comparable to the overall student body. And then grades 4 through 5 math growth, so improving where students end up after comparing themselves to their like peers across the state of Wisconsin at the end of the year. And then similarly, grades 6 through 8 ELA growth, trying to improve where students perform based on their starting point and their ending point by the end of the year. And that was it for our summer.
Candace, this is Larry. Quick question. So both of the 4-5 math and or the 6-8 ELA growth, what are you really looking for there, or what made those as an area of focus? I mean, what kind of stood out? Is it
Yeah,
a mix
so
of
when we look at the overall report cards, the value-added model compares students, and it's on a scale, and 3 is considered average. And so if you're a 3, your students are making the same amount of growth as each of their individual like peers across the state of Wisconsin. So you're like everyone else. We really want to see above a 3. We don't necessarily want to fall below that 3. When we are falling below that 3, that means our students are not making similar growth to their peers compared to other students in the state of Wisconsin.
And there were some questions asked by the board that I kind of want to touch on a couple of those, but if you looked at us across all grade levels as a district, we have grade levels and buildings that like the high school stood out this year from a growth standpoint. That if you recall that grade 4 was that grade that we had kind of talked a little bit about when we were, I think it was the Wisconsin Forward, when we looked at that assessment data. So that's a group that we're continuing to keep our eye on, and I know that Christy and Lexi and the teachers there have been monitoring that group and working specifically with that cohort. But I did get some really good questions, I thought. So I'm going to kind of run through those because I do think that they're important. So the first one is, why, as a district, is our growth lower than our achievement? Historically, we've been a very average district when it comes to our growth, which is exactly why we have a couple things built into the strategic plan. One of our goals is to increase our understanding of learner variability and getting better at our practices to reach all kids. I would say many of our teachers probably were trained, teach a lesson, one size fits all. That most of the time that hits kind of your middle group of students, where that middle group will grow, but your higher kids and then your kids that are on the bottom don't grow as much. So we continue to look at our practices to address all kids. Many of our buildings also have a focus on small group instruction, and that's just that. They're looking at that classroom data, and then they're adjusting their instruction to meet all of the needs of the kids in their class. So that's that first piece, and then the second piece is we've talked a lot about our efforts this year to start professional learning communities and make sure that those are in place in all of the buildings. And we talked about those 4 questions that are fundamental to professional learning communities. Question 3 is, what do I do if the students aren't learning it? And question 4 is, what do I do if the students already know it? So really that is addressing kind of those different levels that you sometimes experience in your classroom. So, and Mike and I have also had some internal conversations about, as we continue to move forward, generally speaking, we're a high achieving district, but we have talked quite a bit about potentially down the road, i.e. next strategic plan, maybe having a heavier focus on that growth component. Questions about growth achievement?
So Anthony, you and I have talked about this over the couple of years. So I'm a numbers girl, like I'm not a teacher. And what I struggle with these reports is you're looking at different cohorts and the results of different cohorts. So I don't want to say I don't pay a close attention to it, but what I want to say is I appreciate the level of professionalism that is in our buildings. When I do those learning walks, I don't see teachers only teaching to the middle. I see them reaching out and grabbing what I would perceive as possibly a low performer and drawing them in. And I see them talking to the high performers and challenging them to do more. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I respect the work being done on this campus. I respect the goals that you guys make as the leaders on the campus. I think everybody is really doing their best and we're seeing good results and going, the percentage isn't there, from 4 to 7, is that what it was? Like we dropped from the top 4% to the top.
Yep.
That does not freak me out in the least bit. I just want to commend everybody on this campus and their professionalism, like I said, and their dedication to our families and to our students. I just struggle with these results and these reports because you show me last year's 4th graders to this year's 4th graders, that really means nothing to me. So that's my 2 cents, and that's probably all it's worth.
Well, no, I appreciate the comment, Stacey, and I agree. I think our teachers work really hard to meet different needs of students. We typically probably do our best job with kids that are performing lower. Sometimes you can kind of say, well, the top kids will take care of them. So you get to the high school, you have AP courses, you have those things that tend to provide some natural avenues there. It's just difficult. It's difficult to differentiate for 20, 25 kids in a room. We were looking at our pre-ACT results, which for 9th grade, which were actually very good. You'll get some data on that. Some of that, I think the best we've ever had. But we looked at the spread of scores, and we had scores, a whole bunch of kids at 30, and we had some kids getting like 3s and 4s. So that's what you can see in a classroom. So it is very complex for teachers to hit all of those different needs. So when Anthony's talking about really making that a point of emphasis, because we're getting good growth, we're not getting poor growth. We have high achievement, we should, considering our demographic, but we want to get better at that, and that's what universal design of learning, that's why constantly improving our MTSS systems for intervention, those kinds of things are an important part of it.
Yeah, and I do think that if you were to go and just randomly walk around and ask as many teachers as you could come in contact with, I think if you were to ask like 10 years ago compared to now, I just think 10 years ago you had a group of students in front of you and they were, generally speaking, you had some outliers, but generally speaking, they were kind of in the same spot. I just think that is getting bigger now, and you just have a more, from a learner standpoint, there's more diversity in the classroom. But trying to figure out how to meet all of those needs is a tall task. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is what are we doing with our students that aren't showing the appropriate growth or are not at benchmark from an achievement standpoint. We've talked a lot about our MTSS framework. That handbook also is reviewed by the board every year. The important thing to note with that is not based on just one assessment, right? So these students, in this case, whether it be the forward or the ACT, it's a one-time test each year. So for our MTSS framework, we're looking at multiple data points across the year, and that is standardized assessments, but it's also some of the district assessments that we administer, Ames Web Plus. It's also based on classroom assessments and teacher feedback, but generally speaking, students that fall at or below the 25th percentile can qualify for our Tier 2 support, and then at the 10th or below percentile, then they're in that Tier 3 support. And really that is small group focused instruction, and the difference between Tier 2 and Tier 3 really is size of the group and then frequency that they're meeting with our interventionists. There is a measure on the report card as well that touches on work-based learning, and as a district on the report card, it is reported that 0.2% of our students participate in work-based learning experiences. The state average is identified as 8%. And the question was, well, why are we so low? The state has 6 criteria that need to be met in order for it to be considered a DPI-approved work-based learning experience. We have many opportunities for our students, craftsmen with character, insight, pro-start experience for our culinary students. And you heard Nelson talk when we were touring the spaces. Many of those just don't meet what the DPI has defined as the criteria to be considered work-based learning. And I did also, I want to recognize youth apprenticeship, because that would be something that would meet that definition. 3 years ago, we had 0 students participating in youth apprenticeship. We have 8 now. That's an area that we're continuing to grow. One of the challenges with that is finding a business partner that's going to host the student, because not only do they have to train the student, but they have to provide wages as well. And that really could be a full-time job, someone just to go out and find youth apprenticeship opportunities for students. But I know Ben's really been working on that a lot, and we're slowly growing it.
Is that only the trades? Or?
There are numerous pathways, so it extends outside of the trades as well. I mean, there's like hospitality and tourism, so there are numerous opportunities there.
Anthony, we've talked before about certain cohort groups that don't achieve as well. They're underachievers as a group. Do we know what affects that? What causes certain groups to be less on the achieving scale? And what are we currently doing, or what could we do to look at those certain groups?
Yep.
You know, you have a certain class where they're not achieving as much. What can we do?
So, Candace, you can feel free to scold me here, because if I ever use the term significant, sometimes Candace corrects me. But Candace, correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, we do not have any cohort that significantly exceeds higher or lower when compared to the other cohorts. But fourth grade, now 5th grade, is one that if they were to continue on the trend that they're on, could be one of those cohorts. Is that correct, Candace?
That is correct.
So ultimately what's happening now at Horizon with that 4th grade into 5th grade group, they do regular data checks on, really we do that with all of our cohorts. It's built into the system. But if we do have students that need more targeted instruction, that would come through then through our MTSS process.
A question, a follow-up on that. Is there any connection between that cohort and the start of our modified 4K program? They're in 4th or 5th grade.
From the thematic program?
Graders just missed the K, because my
They what?
daughter's in 5th grade.
That would have been the,
They
that would have been the
just- they
last
missed
group
it, yeah.
yep, that didn't have it.
So,
Yeah.
so they are or aren't?
They do not.
So they did not
They did not
participate.
participate
They did not
in
get the
our new
But yet they're
4K
still
model.
high performing.
No,
Just checking.
No, they're
no,
Lower,
They're
they're
lower.
lower.
performing.
they did
That
not
4th grade
participate
group.
in the new program in
Yeah.
4K, and they're lower performers
Oh, they are lower
They were
performing.
the-
4th grade is as a cohort.
as a cohort.
I mean, there's plenty of really bright
Right.
students that are performing well, but it is as a cohort, that is a group that is one we're really monitoring because their performance is consistently low.
Start of COVID, so So just
Yeah,
to
it's a
kind of
COVID, well,
put
yeah,
it,
it's a COVID thing then.
right.
so, Potentially.
Potentially.
Taking other questions?
So the last question was specifically focused on ELA, and looking at some of our performance, talking about potential adjustments. ELA was supposed to start curriculum renewal this year. We delayed it by a year until next year, and the rationale for that was we just got done rolling out a new curriculum at PLE, and then into third grade as well. So we delayed it a year. We will start again next year with the curriculum renewal for ELA.
Tied to the Act 20.
Yep.
Right, so we've had to implement those curriculums. Out of cycle.
Taking new questions?
I'm ready, Larry.
Okay, so this one is just because it was an anomaly maybe in the data, but one of the areas it was in the district, but also across the district, it's the student group chronic absenteeism rates by single year. So we have 2021, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, but there's no 24, 25 data presented, whereas the whole rest of the report includes 24, 25 data. So is it not there, not reported? And then do we do much analysis with it? Because within the 23, 24 school year, and that was the high school. So at the district level, we have something like, let's see, where's my page with that one? It's fairly high in terms of the number of special ed and or economically disadvantaged students. So why is the data not there for 24, 25? And then even with the data we have with 23, 24, is there any breakdown with that? And if you want to get into it and postpone some of the discussion until we do the thing in February, whenever it is, that's okay too, but.
So the attendance and absenteeism data is always 1 year behind on the report cards because that data is not collected by DPI until December of this year. So 24-25 absenteeism and attendance data was not taken from the schools until December 9th. And so they do not have it when they put out the report cards in October and November. So that data is always 1 year behind.
So it's not included.
Yep. So when you get the report card next year, it'll have this year's, but it won't have next year's.
It's a lagging indicator.
Yes,
so
it lags by 1 year.
Why?
That's a DPI.
Write a letter, Larry.
What's that? You write a letter, yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but then obviously if you could dig into it further, what I was trying to look for was any patterns in terms of the number of students that we have that meet the criteria for this chronic absenteeism, potentially at PLE and middle school and all of the high school. Do we have kids that are really out there? Because if they're missing a lot of school, and it was in the 23, 24, like at the high school, it was like 11% met the chronic absenteeism thing. I don't know if that translates into X number of days or times that they're gone, but.
Yeah, part of or all of 10 days.
Well, so they once you go past 10 days. So a student can, with parent excuse, can miss school for up to 10 days. Beyond that, if they are absent, unexcused absence all or part of 5 days, they meet the definition of chronic absenteeism.
So we know that a driver of that is family trips, family vacations, a lot of athletic participation and traveling for tournaments, all those kinds of things can be real drivers of that.
And Mike, I'm gonna push back on you on that one. I think we need to see more data on that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's there, it's there, but then we should have explanations if that is indeed the case in terms of family trips and family vacations. Because there were 303, again, 23, 24, students with disabilities and economically disadvantaged, there were 390. So it's a pretty significant number.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's the only, I'm just saying those, things like that are also contributors. But I think it's a really good point, and when we come on in the spring for the board report with
Incidents and things like that.
yeah, with behavior, and that's something we can really make sure we.
Because the other thing that's out there, I mean, it's a fairly intensive process. I mean, definitely in the high school, if they have to issue truancy, and you guys do that in the PLE and ASA as well, it's like, it's a lot of work to deal with the families and or file letters and potentially police type things that get involved in it too, so.
Well, Cady, feel free to hop in. I can tell you that over time, last 5 years maybe, there used to be some more tools that the county would engage in with us to help with truancy, and they don't do that anymore.
What were some of those tools that they would use?
I mean, they could get could be court ordered to be at school, or B could get assigned a caseworker to help work with them on improved attendance. And that, I just think that they don't have the resources to be able to provide that anymore. So that is something that in the past was very helpful, that just is not a tool that's at our disposal anymore.
Yeah, I just note a difference between chronic absenteeism and habitual truancy. Those are different things.
Because chronic absenteeism can be parent excused.
It can be,
right?
most of our chronic absenteeism is parent
Right,
excused.
yeah.
Yeah, where habitual truancy is, it's no longer excused. And now that's the difference between being truant versus being absent. But to Anthony's point, when I was associate principal here at the high school, back in the Stone Ages, I think my last year was 2003, 2004 school year. The county in Waukesha I even had really habitually truant students that were in security detention. They were in essence in jail at night for not going to school. That never happens anymore. And then when I went to Milwaukee County School, it was a waste of time even to file habitual truancy. They didn't do anything about it. So, and it's getting to be kind of like that in Waukesha. They just have, I guess, bigger fish to fry. They don't pursue it that way. So that has, in terms of county support, that has changed quite a bit.
And Emily Hanson, AP at the high school, is on the Waukesha County Attendance Task Force. So all they do is talk about attendance and things that they can do to help improve attendance.
So who's a part of the task force then?
Emily Hanson.
So they're looking at it as a county-wide issue, so.
Yep.
And why did they create the task force?
I think probably because they recognize that there is an issue. If you were to look, our attendance data is above the state average, but I think it's a challenge that many schools across the state are battling.
Correct. From my understanding, national trends indicate a much higher rates of students missing school over the past 5 years, and those have continued to increase nationally since 2020.
So yeah, whenever we do the spring report, maybe.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we hit on that when we do that report.
Other questions?
Anecdotally, do we have families that pull their students for like weeks at a time to return to home countries?
We do have some of that. We have a process for that, which it involves us having them withdraw from school.
Okay.
So that's what's typical
Okay.
that we do if they're going to be, because yes, we will have families that will go back home for a month, and versus counting them absent, they have to withdraw and then re-enroll and return.
Candace, it's 30 calendar days, correct?
Correct.
So when they do that, our teachers don't have to prepare, okay.
No. So, and Candace, correct me if I'm wrong, but like legally, if they're gonna be gone for more than 30 calendar days out of the country, we have to withdraw them, correct, Candace?
Oh, that makes sense.
So there, at the federal level, are a couple things that we are supposed to start over when students are out of the country for more than 30 days. And then this also ties in through the kind of process has been created as it ties into how are they tracked through truancy laws, all those things that we are supposed to follow up with, and when does the expectation align from a policy standpoint and legal standpoint of when a student is in another location and they're supposed to enroll in a school in their residential location. And so it pulls together, that timeline pulls together multiple different pieces.
Okay.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you.
All right, next up is long-range, our facility plan, capital projects, and we're gonna have John Stangler come up.
So I'll kick this off for John, just to give you a little background on the long-range capital projects plan. The plan in the format that it is right now is a 10-year plan, and that was initiated in 2014 when we established our Fund 46, which we'll touch base on. We touch base on the report. That's a capital improvement trust fund. That's dollars that have been set aside for emergency purposes or to complete capital projects that are within the district. Prior to that, we had two different plans. We had a short-term plan that was a 5-year picture of what we anticipated, and a long-range plan that was more referendum-driven. Where would buildings expand to if they needed to expand? So this is the merger of those two. And the whole idea is not to put a date on a project that's there to be done. It's to give the board a perspective of, here's what short-term in the next couple of years you can anticipate we might have to face from a capital improvement standpoint, to longer term, 5 to 10 years or longer. There's things we need to keep a pulse on. A great example of that is like roof replacements. We got some coming up that are hitting 30 years old. We should have them on a plan so we can think ahead about decisions we make today won't negatively impact our ability to make those decisions 5 and 10 years from now. So with that, I'm not going to say anymore. We'll let John take over.
Thanks, John. All right, so you've seen the plan already. However, we use the criteria: S for safety, L for life cycle and operations, A for aesthetics, P for program delivery, and E for efficiency. You'll see it's a little color coded. So the green is it's likely to happen within the next 3 years. Blue 4 to 6 years, and purple 7 to 10 years. You also see at the bottom of this is one of those new aerials. I know it got a lot of hits on on social media when it was taken back in October. You can also see referendum history, what we have in Fund 41 and Fund 46, total valuation of the properties. If anything's highlighted in yellow, that's been added within the last year. So as we get towards the high school, we've been able to knock out a lot of items with the new addition, and you guys just toured that. So those are a lot of great, new spaces that everyone's going to be able to enjoy. At the top of our list, though, still remaining at the high school, we have some boiler needs and/or efficiency items regarding our heating system here at the high school. Also, there's some miscellaneous, sconces, wall packs. There's some bleachers. I know there's long lead times on bleachers. There's doors. There's a lot of those auditorium items. A lot of the auditorium items, from the house lighting. I know we have a number of lights that are out in the house. And also like the amplifier and the projector, those are all at 13 years right now. So as of last month, those are all 13 years old. So they're getting towards the end of their useful life. So you'll see a lot of those items are on there just because, all right, they're getting near their life cycle and efficiency time periods. That's all I really have on the high school. As far as middle school goes, we've got some curricular needs just regarding a few countertops that we need to look at adding, which we're going to be able to relocate from one of the high school classrooms that's going to be remodeled here in January. Also, just some of the needs of some of the restrooms to upgrade and bring those up to speed. We have a lot of other great new spaces, but again, just trying to take care of some of those other needs. The solar, that's highlighted in green because that's already been given the green light, and as Josh mentioned, we got the bid out and we'll be assigning that here shortly. I know the culinary room, that's probably the only spot that we had not replaced the flooring in as part of the 2019-2020 improvements. And then there's also just a couple miscellaneous things that, as the life cycles are going, also like what you'll see from the high school, you saw scoreboards on there. Again, those are all at 13, 14 years in the main gym. And then also if the state organization were to adopt a shot clock, we would have to be looking at updating and replacing those scoreboards. So that's why they're on there and just kind of sitting there waiting until there would be a future possible decision made on that, whether it be a shot clock added, then we'd have to look at changing those out. Also, you see at Horizon, there's a lot of other ones highlighted in green that have been given the green light from the flooring. I just sent that to Dr. Cady on a couple of the flooring options that we're looking at, and will be bid out shortly. There's some great improvements to the library, the makerspace expansion, and creating a large breakout space there. And again, a lot of those are just getting to the life cycle, needs that we need to look at replacing. When you get to PLE, there's not a whole lot of new items, but say there's a couple of those old Bradley sinks that are, 1996, and again, some of these items just get to their useful life, and we need to look at replacing. And then from an HVC standpoint, we have a couple other small things there. We just have a couple of units that aren't full DDC, direct digital control systems yet, where everything else in the district has been switched over to DDC except for 3 air handling units at PLE. So we're sitting in pretty good shape just from a control standpoint for our HVAC. And then also at PLE, you'll see there's the roof replacement sections 1 and 2. So again, we bid out a large amounts at PLE and Horizon. This is one of those that is going to be coming up probably in the summer 27. We're going to look at replacing. These are the 2 roof sections that are directly over our district office in that northwest corner. You also see the carpeting listed on there as well. This could involve, a possible reworking of the district office space just for 2025 standards, just from functionality and, from a business office standpoint to make sure we can function optimally. So that's on there. And then as far as like grounds wise, we add a lot of items on here, but only because there are large costs associated with, like, say, the lighting systems. So the Musco lighting that we have on our soccer field, it's a 25-year warranty. After 25 years, they don't make those lights anymore. They don't make those lights. Those lights have become obsolete. So we have to look at upgrading those lights with the latest and greatest. So like, say, our softball diamond, those are LED. The main stadium, those are not LED, but they are Musco lighting where they have a lot of great mirrors and control over the throw of that light. But again, those are all 25-year warranties for all those Musco lights that we have on our property. And then also, we're just honing in on the life cycle of the track. So again, we're going to be having a structural spray completed on that track this summer. In another 6 years, we're going to need to do 1 more structural spray. And then another 6 years after that, we're going to have to look at replacing that in like 2038, 39. So I know that's far out. It's past the 10 years, but again, that is a large expenditure down the line. So I just want to make sure we kind of have it accounted for what we're looking at completing. And then the roof, that was just the outlook on the roofs. We're sitting in really good shape going forward from a roof standpoint. And again, like I said, it's really only those 2 in the northwest corner of PLE that need to be completed within the next 5 years. Otherwise, any of the other roofs are easily 6, 7, 8 years out when we have to look at replacing some of the other ones here at the high school. But otherwise, if you can, on these photos, you can see a lot of the roofs that were replaced, and it's just a great outlook on what's been improved and the recent improvements we've been able to make and what we've been able to accomplish. Questions?
Either John or John, the Horizon flooring.
Yep.
How many times have we replaced that or had to challenges with that? But
great question. And I know you mentioned the tile. So VCT tile is the vinyl tile that we have at Horizon. Typically life cycle is around 25 years. And what are we at? Year 25. So it's just, this will be the first time we ever look at replacing the flooring at Horizon. So again, this is just the life cycle of the vinyl flooring, and for those of you that have been at Horizon recently, you can see discoloring, you can start seeing some wavering, you can see cracking of the tile just because it's getting at the end of its useful life. So it will be the first time it's replaced since it was built. But great question.
we've had problems with that flooring though since we opened the building, right?
Yes, there's a couple of items, when they laid the floor back in 2001. But again, we've been able to, correct any issues, from the install, and it's held up well. It's just getting at the end of its useful life. So it's done its time. It's performed for its life cycle.
And we're looking forward to putting carpeting. We've had been very happy with where we've added carpeting, I would say.
Yes.
I would think at PLE, ASA here, it's held up well. It's easy to replace tiles.
Easy to replace tile, and then we also don't have to worry about pulling all the contents out of every single classroom, scrubbing and waxing it every year, because that's what we've had to do at Horizon for the last 25 years. So, and again, we're getting very close to replacing all of the VCT that we've pretty much have on the entire site. There's a little bit left in the 2 cafeterias at PLE and some here at the high school. Otherwise, that scrub and having to wax every summer is going away, and it's a lot easier to shampoo classrooms and flip classrooms on a regular basis. Again, with the success of our summer school program too, we need to be able to flip these buildings pretty fast. Again, like we've talked about the summer campus improvements report, we're flipping 180, 190 classrooms in about 45 days. So we've got to be able to do that fast, and this speeds up that process as well.
So when we look at the next couple of years here, is there a project that potentially could hit us financially and cause us a wee bit of heartburn? Or do we feel like we've got this under control?
So when you look at this process, so the whole identification process and the timing of it, and the timing is probably more important. We want the board to be aware of what are those items that are on the outstanding for whatever available resources we may have to address them, and then we can assign an urgency to them. Notice this comes before the development of the annual operating budget for the district. So we have funds from the operating budget, we have funds from potentially the trust fund, depending on the urgency and the level of the project that's coming forward, and other funds that are available where we can address some of these items that frankly we know in the next 2 to 3 years are going to have to be addressed. The timing on them, either from a life cycle standpoint or from a change in our delivery or a change in the functionality of our buildings. When we built things in 2000, we're not using them the same today as we were then. When we have those available resources, we come to the board and say, here's the plan of how we think we're gonna need to address this. This plan isn't gonna say everything. We could have a rooftop, it's not gonna happen, I'm not gonna say it. But something like that happens, you gotta fix it. We're not gonna jeopardize holding school in a building because we didn't have money allocated prior to it happening. We're gonna fix it, and we're gonna determine where is the best source to be able to fund those things. We can be preemptive and think ahead, and that's a great credit to this board and the preceding boards that have been here. That vision for the fiscal responsibility for the physical plant that the taxpayers have paid for over the years through all of the referendum, and maintaining the responsibility to keep those sites viable so that we don't have any issues of deferred maintenance or projects that weren't completed that could have been.
And I would just, really support what John just said in the sense that we see lots of really pretty shiny spaces with what we've been able to do, especially the last couple of referendums, but priority one is always infrastructure. Like we look at HVAC, roofs, all those kinds of things have been heavily addressed. So we are in very good shape on those items. I mentor superintendents in other districts across the state, first-year superintendents in districts where it's just been deferred maintenance. They don't have the money. They haven't had referendum cycles that have went through, and I'm sure you're aware of some schools maybe that have leaky roofs and they have outdated HVAC systems and those things. That's not our situation. To your question though, Bren, something can fail unexpectedly or those things, but we have funds that are set aside that we can go to if we end up in those situations.
And I just think it's a good time to say again, thank you, John, for your financial leadership that puts this district where we're at today. So thank you.
That's it, the development of this plan, it goes all the way down to every user in the system. And that's really the strength of it. We can develop a plan and say, we think this should be done based on our schedules. It's the users of the facilities every day are saying, this isn't working the way it should, or this is getting to the end of its useful life, and John and his team do a great job of aggregating that information and putting it into a digestible format of what do we need to accomplish moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Next, the safety drill log consideration. John.
All right, so back again on the office school safety reporting. So every year we're required by Act 143 to report all of the items that you see listed here to office school safety. So I have to submit these by the end of the year. So this is the formality of approving the safety drill logs so we can have everything reported to the state in time. And also, I just want to give a shout out to our APs, Beth Ingersoll, Lexi Horvat, Paul Bursa, and Jane Matter, just for their leadership and being safety champions in their buildings. It's always very helpful and effective to have other members of our safety committee be effective in their building and administering these drills and helping train our staff and students.
Any questions for John? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
I move to accept for purposes of board review at this meeting the written drill evaluations submitted by the principals under section 118.07, paren 4, paren CP of the state statutes from Pewaukee Lake Elementary, Horizon Elementary, Asa Clerk Middle School, and Pewaukee High School as listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Next, policy committee, and I'm gonna let Ashley go through the first reading of these policies.
So there was one question from Stacey about language in the Chromebooks, and it sounds like the language is covered in the policy.
Good.
Yep.
Other than that, there were no questions. Are there any questions now?
All right. Thank you. Next, personnel issues. Looks like no resignations, no employments, no leave of absence.
That's correct.
That's always good news.
Feel stable right now.
Yep, it's a good feeling. Upcoming activities. So this is our only board meeting for December. In January, our one board meeting is January 12th, with business affairs at 6 and a board meeting at 7. Then in February, we have two meetings. The first one on the 9th, we have business affairs, and the second one on the 23rd, we have policy committee. Also, I just want to add, up and coming is the WASB conference. Right now, Larry and I are the two that are registered to attend. They can still register if they're interested.
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Let me know.
All right. And we are doing a presentation that will be done by Mike, Anthony, and Colin Jacobs, and that is on leveraging AI.
And Larry indicated he's going to participate.
Okay. All right. Okay, what about legislative advocacy?
So today, Bren and John and I met with Representative Adam Nalen for a little over an hour. A really good conversation. We talked to him about budgetary challenges that we anticipate in the district, the impact of the last biennium, from issues like special ed funding and the concept of some certain versus some sufficient, some certain percentages of reimbursement that were promised are falling short of that. So we talked about that issue. We talked about quite a bit about the impact on Pewaukee and other schools with the state funding private vouchers. shared with him that we are north of $800,000 a year now going to help fund private voucher schools. So I had quite a bit of conversation about that as well. And really just talked about state aid formula and that issues with the lack of equalization aid, or the $0 put in the equalization formula in this current biennium, is really driving property tax increases and is how it's affecting our levy going up. So quite a bit of conversation about that, really good dialogue. And anything either of you have to add from that conversation?
No, just that I appreciate that, you know, we were talking about that daycare issue, and
Yep.
I appreciate that he's wanting John to put something together to see if this is some way we could bring in added revenue.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. There's a new law in place that, again, it's a some certain issue, where it offers a little over $7,000 to daycare centers if they provide 4K programming, which could create all kinds of issues. The anticipation is that more daycare centers will apply for that, meaning that amount will be far less than $7,000 per student. It could create lots of funding issues in a variety of districts. It could lead districts to then implement full-day 4K in more places, which would just basically take that business entirely away from those daycare providers. So we see a lot of issues with this law as it sits right now. So we talked quite a bit about that and had conversation about. He asked, well, wouldn't that be an opportunity for us to generate more revenue? John said, well, maybe.
Yeah.
We might generate more revenue, but the costs involved with bringing in that revenue might outweigh moving to full-day 4K programs. We talked about you need rooms, you need staffing, all that, those kinds of things. So a really good conversation there. So we asked John for some follow-up on those pieces, and he asked some good questions about, are there one-time grants that he could advocate for that might be more beneficial. So we had some good conversations about grant opportunities. He's done a really good job of things like robotics advocacy. There's a $5 million a year now in the state budget that we can get grants, and we do get benefit from those grants to support robotics across the state. So, but yeah, just a really good conversation, and probably most important is just maintaining those channels of communication. Invited him, of course, to, if anything pops up at the state level and he needs a local read on it, to call us at any time. We'll be happy to tell him how it would affect us as one of the school districts he represents.
And John, do you have any sense of the dollar value associated with what we thought we were gonna get potentially with special education versus what the DPI is allocating now?
The state budget projected that the reimbursement rate would be at 42%. Due to some uncertainty in the numbers, the state prorated. They prorated every year. They prorate the amount that you're gonna get. This year was prorated a little bit lower than what we would typically see, at about 35% for those first payments. And then it's reconciled with the June payment, the final payment of the year. We're anticipating that number is gonna fall somewhere around 38.5% to 39% statewide by the end of by the time everything is said and done in June. Knowing that there's a proration and that the cost for providing those services is accelerating faster than what the general operating budget is for the district, we anticipated, we budgeted slightly lower than that 42%. Most districts did. They budgeted between 38 and 40%, in anticipation that cost would outpace some certain allocation that was put in there.
What is there, a dollar amount you kind of think it may?
0.5% to 1% for us could mean $50,000 to $70,000.
So it's 3% less.
And then obviously you mentioned too about the 800,000 for the
Private voucher. I think we're about 870 right now. 800. So that's how much local tax funding is going to fund private voucher schools currently, and that's been going up every year. Statewide, it's at about $1 billion. So we talked about that. You know, he talked about what's anticipated. The surplus is expected to be quite a bit. I mean, we've had billions of dollars in surplus in recent years. He said they're projecting about 800 million. So then it's a decision of like, all right, there's only so much extra money to go around. Where would it go? We did talk about choices. I said, well, but there is $1 billion going to private voucher. That's a choice that the legislature has made. It's not one that's required. So, those are things that we talked about a little bit as well.
Did you by any chance bring up the question related to this private schools getting the 90% reimbursement for special education?
Yeah,
and we're still in that 35%, which is like, whoa, guys, I mean, it's like.
We address the inequities that exist with special ed reimbursement for private voucher institutions, the lack of, the mandates that are constantly put on public schools, but they don't apply to private schools who are receiving public funds. We talked about public schools providing the transportation for private voucher schools that are receiving public funds. We talked about that the per pupil reimbursement for many private voucher schools now is higher than we get, yet we still pay for their transportation. So I think we covered a lot of ground with that.
I just appreciate Adam's openness to learn that from our perspective. It's one thing to get a fiscal bureau report and to have a caucus report on it, but then to learn our perspective of what's happening there is something that he's always been really open to, and we appreciate that.
He's got kids in the district, so.
3 of them.
Yeah, good cover. He's always very open-minded. We've had a very good relationship with him, so.
Okay, at our 2026 delegate assembly, Larry Dew is going to be representing the Pewaukee School District. So Larry, I'd like you to just talk through.
Process?
Yes.
So, okay, so there's a couple key groups that make this happen. So there's the policy and resolution. So they get formed in like the June timeframe and then meet first time in September. And then they met again in November in Stevens Point. They're the group that goes through resolutions that school districts submit and changes or modifications that the resolutions are essentially the guidebook that the WASB uses in terms of guiding any kind of advocacy, if you will, for all of the school districts. And there's about 421. Most all of them are members, if you will. And I just kind of got my full packet. I think there's 12 items that are up for review at the delegate assembly, ranging from, let's see, where it is, the first ones that are in the packet as they go through them. So the packet has all of the information regarding what was presented and submitted by the respective school districts. They get kind of edited, if you will, and kind of come up with the final wording. But let's say, okay, opposing the removal of caps from the Wisconsin Parental Choice Program. And either Mike or John, if you want to comment on that, but essentially means right now there's been limitations on how many kids can participate in these Wisconsin Parental Choice Programs. And that's potentially going to go away in 2026. So that could have impacts that are out there. And so again, that was one of those that was brought forward. And at the delegate assembly, then each one of these individual resolutions gets brought before the group. And it's the group of people who attend. They have to be there right now because there's no provision for them to do anything virtual or remotely. So you have to be there on that Wednesday afternoon, 1 or 1:30 is the starting time for it. And then it will go for at least 2 or 3 hours sometimes. But then each item is brought up for vote. It can be somewhat changed and modified and amended, but that gets a little bit messy when they try to do that in a large group like that. But then they either get voted up or voted down as to whether or not they move forward with those kinds of things that are there. So there's 12. There's 12 items that are on the agendas, and I think there's like links out there in terms of WSP has it on their website, but they also send out copies with this as well. So, any questions on that one in terms of what's there? So if you have any thoughts or ideas in terms of anything as it relates to the different resolutions going forward with it, the one that's there's two that are really, really challenging in my opinion. So one of them says supporting decoupling of public and private school funding, and then the 11 says opposing decoupling of public and private school funding. So those two are gonna be kind of challenging, but they put together a specific guide as to how they plan to address that, because it's like, they're opposite sides in terms of what's out there. So how they're gonna work with that, but they've come up with some, procedural guidelines from a parliamentarian standpoint and a legal standpoint of how these are gonna be brought forward, for the discussion at the delegate assembly, so. And they can be rather fun and exciting discussions from time to time, so, but. And it's a process that's used, it's been used for the WASB for a long time. 421 school districts, not all of them show up for the delegate assembly. That could be a concern for some folks, but they always have to have a quorum. And then that's, the final vote is what gets into the book that's out there, so. I think that kind of covers it, but do you have any thoughts?
Thank you for being our delegate, Larry.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. I know that process can be very lengthy, so.
Yeah, one time, but they tried to tighten it up quite a bit, because it just got out of hand, I think, from the standpoint of how many amendments to the amendments to the amendments to the amendments that were being made, and that made it really challenging for people to address.
Next, I just want to give an election candidate update. There are various deadlines. One of them is coming up quickly, December 26th by 5 p.m. Is a deadline for notice of non-candidacy. That means if you're currently up for re-election, which this year it is Ashley and Mary, if you've decided not to run, you need to fill that form out and get it into Tammy by 5 p.m. on December 26th. Also, there's a deadline to file for candidacy, and that is January 6th. Spring election this year is April 7th. And if I'm not mistaken, Tammy, I think we have not gotten any paperwork from anyone thus far. No paperwork has been received from anybody at this time. Okay, all right, thank you. So just to make you aware of those deadlines, and we'll see how things shake out for this election cycle.
I did pass around that because I happened to go to the city hall in Pewaukee today, and they had, there was a half sheet associated with it, but I read out of the half sheet, so I made a copy of it for myself. It's the election schedule, so obviously if there's any kind of primaries coming up, those would be like on Tuesday, February 17th. April 7th, 2026 is the actual spring election. And then because there's a governor's election coming up in November, that will be another topic that's out there. But the big one is the April 7th election for local school boards and things like that that are out there. So
Yeah.
it's coming around in terms of doing it every year, so.
It is, yes. Tammy, any citizen comments? No citizen comments. All right, with that, we need to go into closed session. Can I get a motion?
Okay. Move to go into closed session in accordance with state statute 19.851, parentheses C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and that in mid-year is superintendent evaluation, so.
Second.
All right, and we'll take a verbal vote. Larry?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Stacy?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
All right, we'll go into closed session.
And we won't be coming back.